Hey, Saucy but Sweet fam. I'm going to start off by asking you, what is your favorite TV show or film? Think about the main character and how famous they may be. Now think of your favorite artist. Are they someone you rarely hear about and who keeps their private lives private? Or are they all over social media and pretty much always being photographed by paparazzi? With social media, being famous takes on a whole new meaning. No more are the days where you only see your favorite actors and singers on the TV screen. Now you have access to them at all times. And even if you're a superstar who values your privacy, you're promoted to build a persona online and maintain this persona. Being famous isn't all it's cracked up to be. We've seen story after story of child actors and singers dealing with abuse and growing up with all of their insecurities and struggles on display for all of us to see and judge. It leaves us wondering if the price of fame is really worth it, because boy, the cost is high. You are now listening to Saucy But Sweet with Allie McPherson, a podcast where nothing is off limits, where we talk about everything from romance, sex, pop culture, and everything in between. Sit back, relax, and enjoy an unfiltered time where we keep it sweet and always saucy. I am so excited to have Sarah Scully joining us today. So hello, welcome to the podcast. I know you're a listener, so
Yes.
thank you for coming on.
Happy to be here. It's a great show. And I love that you cover such a wide range of interesting things. So happy to join.
Thank you. So, you're my former coworker at LinkedIn. I hope you come back soon because we miss you. But for those who don't know you, can you introduce yourself? What have you been up to lately?
Sure. So Sarah Scully, I am a writer and producer, generally in nonfiction, mainly business or politics. I started out producing documentary films and then moved into political coverage slash docu-series. And what I've been doing lately is more in the business world, telling career stories. That's one thing I worked on with you at LinkedIn. Essentially just storytelling, true stories, real stories about, people struggling through different aspects of their career stories and what they learned from them. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah, I mean, at LinkedIn, what made me really want to have you on this podcast is I feel like when we were working together, we always used to have these random but cool conversations about society and culture, entertainment, and everything like that. And I've told you my guilty pleasure is the Kardashians
Yes.
and stuff,
Yes.
So yeah, and then I remember I had Leah Smart on. Shout out to Leah Smart from LinkedIn. I had her on an episode.
She's amazing.
Yes, she's amazing. Shout out to her. She just gave birth, a beautiful child, beautiful family. And so I might have the whole LinkedIn, group here at some point.
You should. There's some great people.
And so what I really wanted to get into was like the price of fame and like
Sure.
entertainment and the fact that so many of us idolize these celebrities. I know I did. And realizing later on, oh my God, like this is actually a nightmare and these people are suffering. Not only that, but they're regular people like you and me where we go through things in private, but they're doing it publicly.
I hear you. And you grew up in New York City, so you may have crossed more paths when you were a kid with people that were on their way to fame or already famous. I grew up in Colorado and definitely, total love all pop culture things. And I think when I was a kid, I wanted to make like Hollywood movies and direct them and, was fascinated with that whole world. And, of course, you see a kid on a TV show or a movie when you're a kid and you think, oh my gosh, I'd love to do that. That looks amazing. But yeah, certainly as I've gotten older and just seeing how it can really like grind you up, that industry, it's been really interesting. And so I think I've read a lot and watched a lot of documentaries about it, and you and I have had a bunch of chats about it. Even the, seemingly most like well-rounded child actors who had parents that were always around, like, I'm older than you. So when I was a kid, Molly Ringwald was a big teen star and in a lot of movies. And she wrote a memoir, and even with her very hands-on parents who were always looking out for her, and they can't always be there. And she said she had some terrible experiences that no minor should have to go through. But I know we've talked also about like Demi Lovato, who made a documentary about it, and just what a grind it was being like a child star in the more modern era, and just the mental anguish they suffered. And there's a real cost, a real price for all that fame.
Exactly. Yeah, shout out to The Breakfast Club. Molly Ringwald was in The Breakfast Club. I know
Yeah.
my listeners hopefully know that movie. And yeah, I grew up idolizing these celebrities, and like I'm from like the Hannah Montana generation where
Mhm.
like that was everything. I had the albums, I had everything. I was Hannah Montana fanatic. And I used to say, "Oh my God, Miley Cyrus is perfect. Everything is perfect, perfect." And I used to think people have perfect lives. And and it's like that doesn't exist. I mean, perfection doesn't exist. And I'm curious, like, who did you look up to?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Molly Ringwald was certainly one of those people.
Mhm.
All those great movies like The Breakfast Club. I also really loved, Nickelodeon was pretty new when I was a kid, and MTV, and just any of the young people, seeing, you can't do that on television, or any of the, especially doing comedic stuff. I really loved any kids that were really doing serious comedy. Um, well, that's a contradiction in terms, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
we're really doing real comedy on television. I thought that is so cool. But even Miley Cyrus, who has great comic chops, and certainly when I was babysitting my niece, I definitely watched my share of Hannah Montana episodes and thought, wow, that's amazing. She's so young and she's very funny and she has
Mhm.
comic timing and she's a good actress. Now I've read that she also suffered, even with like a famous father and an agent and all the people around her. I read somewhere that there were times when they would hold her and like pour coffee down her throat. And what was she, like 12? I mean, come on.
Wow. Mhm.
Yeah. That's a lot of work to put on a TV show. And you think about, I was really lucky. I had a great childhood and got to really just use my imagination and
Mhm.
play around with my friends. And sure, we'd make up skits and make up
Mhm.
costumes, and we'd even, use a camcorder and make videos and stuff, but that was all for fun. We
Yep.
didn't have to do it. It was like if we felt like doing it. You hear about these kids in the production schedules, and it's like they are working 12, 15, 18-hour days. That's wild.
Insane, insane. Like just having a childhood, right? Like you go through, think
Mhm.
about your first heartbreak, your first things that you go through. They're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that only like my close friends know this or whatever. And then the whole world knowing it, right? Like Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber, like things that like the world shouldn't know that they now know. And then social media added to it. It just to
Yeah.
me, it's like, wow, things have gotten worse, not better.
Yeah. Yeah, I always, when in the era of like when you started to see Britney
Yeah.
have a lot of, mental distress, be in distress, or Lindsay Lohan act out, I would always talk with my friends and we'd say there should be like a special division of child protective
Yeah.
services for these kids that are in this world of
Yeah.
fame, and their parents are making a lot of money off of
Yep.
them and not necessarily looking out for them.
Mhm.
There is this law, and it's actually in that Demi Lovato documentary, and it's interesting. It's called the Jackie Coogan law,
Mhm.
and it's from it's from one of the original child actors who was born in 1914,
Mhm.
and he was in a Charlie Chaplin film, and basically he was in a bunch of movies, really cute little kid in those early black and white silent films,
Mhm.
and he made millions.
Wow.
And so when he turned 18, he thought, all right, where's my money? And his mother had spent it all.
Yeah.
So there's actually a law in the books in California, and I believe it's in New York, Louisiana, and like a handful of other states, not that many other states,
Mhm.
called the Coogan Law. And it actually, if you're a child actor, it takes a percentage of the money you make and it puts it in an account that your parents cannot access and no one can access. Only you can access it when you're 18.
Wow.
So another person we talked about, Keenan,
Yeah.
um, he was in Florida, and now Coogan's Law doesn't exist there. So he did not have the benefit of that. And
Yeah.
he was in that documentary
Yeah.
talking about how his mother had met this man at church who said
Yeah.
he had all this like great tax savings and investment strategy. And he took all the money Keenan had earned as a kid.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, that also happens a lot.
Mhm. And just for our listeners to know, you Kenan Thompson from SNL,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah, and All
So
That. He
funny.
was in All That back in Nickelodeon back in the day, which was oh my God, that's another thing too. I look back now, I mean, watching that Nickelodeon, that horrific documentary of showing the abuse that happened in the Nickelodeon sets. Honestly, I watched that show back in the day. My mom sat with me watching it, and we never thought anything was wrong. And now looking back, I'm like, oh,
But you see people like, I mean, we've also talked about there are people that seem to have come out the other side of it, and they seem like they're doing really well,
yeah.
like Keenan, like Zendaya, like these people that were child stars, and well, like who knows? Maybe they're just keeping it all. Maybe they had a good experience. Maybe they're just
Mm-hmm.
keeping it all to themselves. Who knows? But
Mm-hmm.
there are those unique people that seem to very much have like very gracefully gotten through it all, and they're just very hard workers, and
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting. But a lot of it seems very damaging in general just to have to work those schedules. I mean, it's rough for humans. It's like adult humans, any
Yeah.
human. It's that you see adult actors complain about the schedules on like these procedural shows like Grey's Anatomy and what a
Mhm.
grind that is, and how it's like
Yeah.
these crazy 15-hour days, 18-hour days. And so imagine being a kid.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, I work 9 to 5. I'm a grown ass woman working 9 to 5, and I complain. So I can't imagine like having to do school on set. I know people did school on set and
Yeah.
dealing with abuse and dealing with just things that shouldn't have been happening, and no one vouching for these kids. And that's why I love documentaries like that Nickelodeon documentary, because it's like,
Hmm.
wow, people, we're hopefully changing things and being like, hey, no child predators on set, which we didn't know we had to say, but apparently we
Yeah.
have to say that.
Yeah, you should probably make sure. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but yeah, it's I hope there are more laws to protect kids. I'm unfortunately the way just the grind of the economy and the media industry is
Mhm.
such. But then, again, like maybe there are these silver linings and you see like the D'Amelios, you see like people just making their own stuff on TikTok and
Mhm.
like they're not on a production schedule. They
Mhm.
don't have, a call time. It's like I'm gonna make some crazy
Yeah.
TikToks and
Yeah.
become famous that way. I think unfortunately a lot of kids think they can do that too. And it's like, you know,
Mhm.
the filter is very narrow at the top, but
Mhm.
at least they have more outlets to be creative because that's a fun thing, right? As a kid, I'm sure you did the same thing. Like, let's make up a song, let's make a music video, let's,
Mhm.
write a play. And you have a lot of fun being creative with your friends.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing to foster. But yeah, when it becomes like your job and you are the breadwinner for your entire family, then it becomes not so fun.
Yeah. And it's insane to me too, like with the invent of like social media, how everything's at your fingertips at all times. And so just say, you're a young actor, singer, whatever, growing up. Now social media makes it you're always in demand at all times, constantly
Yeah.
available. Or like you said, you could also build your brand on TikTok instead of being like on set. But it's
Mhm.
weird. It's like I don't know if it's good or bad because it has such negative aspects and then positive aspects having social media in the swing of things.
Yeah, I think as long as, you're taking the time to get off of it and living IRL and
Mhm.
also not doing it for the likes,
Yeah.
because I think that can be a real drug for people of just really living for the likes, for the shares from strangers, which can really mess with your head. I had a former boss, lovely guy, great dad, had a couple really cool children, and one of them she became such a big deal on Instagram, and it was sort of during the pandemic, and just very people just loved her and thought she was the coolest and had the best fashion and all of that.
Mhm.
It became overwhelming to her and she shut it all down. But
Wow.
he kind of left it to her like is this good for you? Do you want to think about it?
Mhm.
And she thought about it and she thought this is not good for me.
Mhm.
Like I have this parasocial relationship with these strangers out there in the world
Mhm.
and I'm more focused on my phone doing this, and not real life friends and family and experiences. So
Yeah.
it's hard. Not a lot of adults don't even have that kind of sense to say this is not healthy. So, but yeah, I have the same questions. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I think it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you're just not it just seems like you're living for validation of others too, right? Like when you're
Yeah.
so young and performing and performing and performing, or you're a model, right? We talked about the model life, which I'm not gonna lie, I used to want a model. I used to want all of that. But then like, man, how would I have turned out, if I had done that young? We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, especially with modeling,
Mhm.
it's in many ways worse than, TV or movies in that it's really purely just your physicality, and the industry is notoriously harsh of
Yeah.
saying, like, "Your ears are too big," or "You need to fix your teeth," or
Yeah.
"You should do this differently," or "You're not tall enough," or "You're
Mhm.
short," or
Mhm.
you need to lose," and especially with that industry, just the requirements usually of needing people to this idea that they have to be so thin, that can get very dangerous. And then you're just constantly, and it's the irony, it's like, oh, these people are so stunningly beautiful, but they're some of the most insecure people in the world because all they hear all day long going to these callbacks
Yeah.
and go sees are, oh, you're not this, you're not that, you're
Yeah.
not this enough, you're not that enough.
Yep.
So they're like, they just never feel good enough. And it's
Yeah.
like this group of just stunningly interesting, beautiful looking people.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly, and, like, going back to Demi Lovato, who was everything, everyone loved her, she was this and that, and she was so insecure, not that she was modeling, but just she was performing constantly
Yeah.
and being like, "I have to be this, I have to be that," and then Jeanette McCurdy, who came out with that book, "I'm Glad My Mom
Yes.
Died." She was forced into it, and then also had an eating disorder.
Yeah.
Like, wow, she didn't even and we I remember wanting to be Sam. I was like, "Oh," and from iCarly, I was like, "Oh my god, she's so cool." She hated every minute of it, every minute. Teenagers doing things that made us happy. We were happy watching it, and they're
Yeah.
miserable doing it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's really very sad.
Yeah.
I mean, your teenage years should be very goofy, and it's a time to like make mistakes and be silly and goofy. I feel lucky I didn't have social media when I was a teenager. I worry it's a lot of pressure for any even non-famous kids today. So
Yeah, exactly. And why also this topic has been really relevant and in my mind too is just the Justin Bieber. I think right now we're in the
yes,
midst of watching him I think he's having a public meltdown, not like a crazy but like I'm seeing, wow, this is concerning.
it's so concerning, and
Yeah.
just we don't know what happened, but we read the articles and see the reports from the court,
Mm,
house, and the upcoming trial
yeah.
of Sean Diddy Combs.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people in more of like the kind of tabloid media, they're making some assumptions based on just looking back and
Mm,
saying, there's videos, there's pictures of him as a pretty young teenage boy that just sort of living in that world where it seems like a lot of really dark stuff happened. And you just worry, you just think, oh God, that to go through that trauma in any sense is horrible, but to have to live it out in the public
mhm.
and know that people are speculating and wondering, like,
Yeah.
were you abused? Were you
Yeah.
part of this? Were you
Yeah.
witnessing all of this? Were you there for this? Because every day it's like more stories come out of just these like horrific allegations of abuse. And it's so similar how, when you look at Britney's meltdown
Yeah.
when she shaved her head, and
Mhm.
they're all kind of so similar.
Yeah.
And you wonder, like, was a lot of that also you just didn't really have a childhood,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
all that pressure, and you're a young teenager, you know, having to live up to so much and do so much.
And like Justin Bieber's messages, I think was on Instagram where he was saying he feels unworthy and he feels like a
Ah, so
fraud.
sad.
And cause you're brought so young into all this fame. And I remember he had his rebellious years, which everybody
Mhm.
has, just not in the public eye.
Sure. Sure.
It's you kind of grow up with imposter syndrome, right? Imposter syndrome is something that we all go through, but like imagine the camera on you, you know?
Yeah, and it's so sad because he's very talented. Listen,
Mhm.
his music's not my favorite,
Yeah,
but he is talented.
very
Like
talented.
I can recognize that. In a way, it's like you look at these stories and you think, "Oh, I'm actually really grateful that my parents." It's such a delicate. It's the hardest job in the world. It's
Yeah.
the most important job in the world is
Mhm.
being a parent. Like, do you encourage your child who wants to be a performer? Do you encourage it, but with strict kind of safety
Yeah.
limits on it? Like, that's so tough to know,
Mhm.
you know, because some of these stories like Demi, it's like, no, I wanted it. I begged my parents, take me to the audition. I want this. I want to do it. But
Mhm.
it's just like, where do you don't want to squash their dreams, but you also need to make sure they're not ground up by this really horrible system.
Yeah.
And, maybe there can be more laws like that. And, you do want to see people like the people that went through it go and lobby for more things. Like the Jackie Coogan law is more just one for making sure your money is there's at least some money set aside for you, but there
Yeah.
should be more about just your safety and well-being. And it goes all the way back. Jackie Coogan was one of the first, but then it was like Judy Garland, even Elizabeth Taylor. It was
Yep.
like these people that were little kid actors in Hollywood, and
Mhm.
Judy Garland, it's like the same stuff you read about what like Miley and all these other
Yep.
people. It's like not changed. So maybe if they lobbied for stricter laws, labor laws for kids and entertainment, maybe that would help.
Yeah. And I like what you said. You said child protective services or something like that for when
Yeah.
you're young.
Yeah.
No, that's actually because I'm asking like what can be done because what's happening, we're seeing as they get older, oh my God, person's a drug addiction. Oh my God, a person is now talking about this and that, and like Justin Bieber, you know?
Yeah.
And it's nothing to make fun of. I actually get really upset when I see I've laughed. I'm not gonna hold you. I've laughed at Diddy memes because he's a fool. He's a clown. He deserves to be laughed at. Justin Bieber being sexually assaulted by Diddy or something allegedly, that should not be a meme. Like I've actually been like, can we be more sensitive to like victims?
Yeah, I mean, he was what, 15,
Yeah.
16 years old?
Mm-hmm.
That's really tragic and
Yeah.
so sad if he was, it seems like he was around when all these allegations are purported to have happened. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very sad if he, and I hope that, any victims of any sexual assault have to get through and hopefully past feeling shame because it's not their fault, and just getting through it and
Mm-hmm.
finding strength and
Mm-hmm.
being brave, and again not feeling shame,
Mm-hmm.
and not feeling like that it was their fault, and not feeling unworthy,
Mm-hmm.
you know so
Exactly.
it's truly sad. I hope he can get, you know therapy and help.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I mean, it's just like it goes on. It's like we're talking. It's been going on for over 100 years in Hollywood in that world. I mean, Drew Barrymore talks about.
Yes.
I mean, I think she went to rehab for cocaine when she was like 14.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So
That's
but I do
crazy.
think you should like these where, I don't know how we can have better laws to protect these kids, but there are those parents out there that are like, I can make money off this cute kid. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I think therapy should be mandatory for
yeah, that's
yeah.
maybe that's part of what should be in the like kind of labor laws of just like mandatory check-ins and, with
Mm-hmm.
these kids if they're on set all day.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, there are unions, and, it's like you have these different unions for adults, and they can't work past a certain hour or you get fined. Like they need this for children too, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see, I mean, in time I will, I guess when I'm 60 or something, that
Hmm.
these adults will be like, oh, my whole life was on TikTok. We haven't seen that yet. Like they're like more like
Yeah.
my age, but I mean like older. I kind of want to see they're like older, being like, I started on TikTok and that was my whole life. And if they're better off.
Yeah, well, and I'm curious too, just going back to like your favorite, the Kardashians. Those, I always felt bad for the younger two, the
Yeah.
Jenner
Yeah.
sisters, because they didn't ask to be on that show. I mean, how old they were? Really pretty little when
Really
that
young.
show took off.
Mm-hmm.
So Kylie had really no choice.
Mm-hmm.
Kylie and Kendall had no choice about being famous and known people. And it seems like their brother was more of like, please, I don't want to be
Yes.
on this show.
Uh-huh.
But he still kind of was. It
Yeah.
was like you couldn't. I mean, this happened there. I don't know if you ever saw the Osbournes, but that
I
was sort
know
of
of
one
them.
of the
Yeah.
earlier reality shows. And Amy, I believe her name was, there was the one sister that was like, I am not on the show. Don't say my name. Don't point a camera at me. I am not part of this.
Wow.
Which seemed like a really healthy choice.
Wow.
And then her two siblings became very, very
Of
famous.
course.
And,
Mm-hmm.
so but I was sort of impressed that as a young person, she sort of had the foresight to say, yeah, mom, dad, brother, sister, good for you. Leave me out of this.
Yeah. And I don't even know her. So really, I mean, that's maybe what she wants.
Yeah.
Like a personal
Yeah.
private life.
But it's still, people know who she is and her picture's taken because
Yeah.
everyone in her family was on a reality show, and they were like, why didn't she want to be on it? So it's
Yeah.
like you still can't escape. But
Yes.
I think when you're a minor, like the Jenners were, I just felt so bad for them because it
Yeah.
was like, you have no choice. You're literally about to hit like puberty and go through the most awkward time in anyone's life, and there are cameras all over the place.
Yeah. And think about like Northwest too. Like she's actually now more on the show than ever before. And so she's actually a TikTok star too. So she's choosing to do it. I think she asked her mom, "Can I do a TikTok?" And but
Well, and then her dad putting her in a song with Diddy, and
oh man. If only that if it, I mean, I'm sad it happened, but it would have been so relevant to talk about that during the episode I had on Diddy and Kanye, talking about
yeah.
the downfall of them, of just this is extra shit that Kanye does. Just extra stuff. Like it's and then he said, then Kim's taking him to court and he's like, I don't care, and I'm like, dude.
I mean, talk about really needing. I mean, there are times when he seems almost like textbook unmedicated bipolar, just in a manic phase.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because you can really act like you make no sense and do and say things that you will later regret if you're really bipolar. Who knows? I'm not a psychiatrist, and but I've seen some of the things he's done, and it's like, I feel like you're not getting care because you're so famous and powerful because of all your money and fame that you're not actually getting the care you need. So
Yeah. Textbook narcissist. That's what I see. And my boyfriend is a very big Kanye supporter to the point where I told him he cannot come on this podcast. He calls me, he says I'm censoring speech. I said, no, I'm not. I don't want you on this podcast talking your Kanye's mess and then getting me shut down.
well, and it's a whole other show you could do about separating the artist from the work, from the art.
Yeah, we talked about that in that
Being
episode.
able to appreciate, and like, especially with music.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, going all the way back to, Mozart and before, it's like, you need to separate, I think, the person that made the music, and if you really enjoy it and it means something to you, from that person's behavior. Exactly. I personally think it's fair that you can still, maybe there's a question about buying it and supporting them if they're doing, like, not cool that Kanye's selling swastika t-shirts. Like, what is that? That's crazy.
He's still doing it too.
But you can still listen to one of his like classic songs and be like, that he's really talented. Like, that's a good piece of music. So
exactly.
It's tricky.
I'm telling you, it's what Hollywood does to people. I'm not blaming Hollywood on him being who he is. He's obviously that person, but oh my gosh, you couldn't pay me to be in that industry. I'd be canceled because I would just be cursing out these idiots all the time. I couldn't do it.
That would be good. You'd be maybe a hero. You'd be a leader. Maybe you'd be going to Congress saying, we need these laws on the books. Maybe you'd be doing it your own way and saying, hey, these kids on set, I'm directing this. These kids need to go do their homework, and I'm going to get rid of any creeps I see. And, we need more people like you looking out for the kids, maybe, yeah? And less worried about making a buck.
We'll be right back with Saucy But Sweet with Allie McPherson. Are you ready to become the best version of yourself and live your best life? Are you tired of feeling stuck in your career, relationships, and your day-to-day routine? It all begins with you. In order to give your best, you have to become your best self. Stop living by default and create the life you want. I remember when there was a time where I felt like I had no control over my life. And the best life coach / relationship coach to help me put my life back together is Odette Codenell. If you are a hardworking, independent, successful woman who lacks energy, focus, and direction, feels overwhelmed, stressed, and anxious, thinks there is never enough time, puts herself in the bottom of your priority list, feels a lack of connection in your marriage or relationship, or if you feel stuck and afraid of change, Odette can help. You don't have to keep struggling, and you don't have to figure it out alone. Odette has found the tools to learn how to stop living by default and start creating the life and the relationship that she wanted, and helped countless clients do the same. Visit www.odettecodenell.com. She will definitely change your life. Exactly. I should switch careers then. This is the last episode of the podcast. I'm switching to now be an advocate and go to Hollywood. Um,
Well, I think you have shown that you're capable of doing many
oh
different
yes,
things at the same time. So
yeah.
you're a multi-hyphenate.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for coming
Yeah.
on. You have to come
Thanks
back.
for
You're a
having
friend of the podcast now. You're a friend of the
Yeah,
podcast.
it's a great show. It's great to just be able to chat, and I love how you're just very real and genuine, and you talk about things that are important. And I loved your conversation with Leah. Anxiety is something we all struggle with, so it was really nice to hear just like tips and common, issues we all go through. So keep doing it. It's so great.
Yeah, that one got a lot of love. I'm very happy about that one. That was something. I mean, I have anxiety. You have. We all have anxiety. So I was like, let's do an episode on that. And like,
Yeah.
and then from someone who I kind of view as an expert, because she talks about anxiety all the time on her.
Yeah.
on her
Oh, for
show.
sure.
So anytime she wants to come back, Leah, come back too. We could all come back together.
Nice. That would be amazing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
I love it.
So thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah.
That's Saucy Pursuit with Ali McPherson. See you next time.